This is the tutorial for the PHLpreK expense reporting template. This template includes the line item budget and the expense reporting forms. The line item budget should be completed at the beginning of the program year with exhibits because it is included in your PHLpreK contract. The expense reporting template should be completed during mid-year reporting for all providers and end-of-year reporting as applicable. There are two versions of the template, one for centers and one for family providers. If you're a group provider, please use the center template. Some cells and columns are locked and will be automatically populated based on your total budget amount. So at the top of the line item budget, you will put your site name. There's a dropdown, so you will click your site name from the dropdown. You should be completing a line item budget template for each funded location and not each legal entity. So if you have multiple locations under one legal entity, you will need to complete a template for each location. Next, you will put in the name of the person completing the form. This is who we will reach out to if we have any questions about your line item budget. Then you will put the date of submission and the total budgeted amount and total number of slots based on your signed notice of awards. So in this example, the total budget amount is $100,000, which means that the total number of slots is 10. And so then in column A, you will see that it's budget expenditures. So you will not be putting anything in this column. It just lists the 4 categories and all the line items. So there's program staff expenses, program other expenses, occupancy expenses, and other expenses. And so you won't put anything here. These are just listing the line items. And then in column B, you will put the budget amount for each line item. So I have gone through and added amounts. So you will just type them right in here. For each line item that you would like to spend PHLpreK funding, you'll just put the budgeted amount in column B. And then column C will automatically populate, so you will not type anything into column C. And this is the percent of your budget for each category that you put something in a line item. So for teacher salary, we put $50,000. So that's 50% of your total budget amount. And so that will automatically populate for all of the line items that you put a budgeted amount in. And then column D is allowable range. You will also not type anything in here. This states the allowable percentages of your budget to be allocated to each line item. So these don't change. You won't type anything in here. These are just the allowable ranges. And then in column E, these are detailed justifications. These are required if the amount in column B is higher or lower than the allowable range in column D. So the percentage of your budget in column C for teacher salary is 50%. That is higher than the allowable range, which was 35 to 45%. So you will need to put a detailed justification. And the same for, in this example, the same for program administrators, admin, and fiscal staff salaries. I put $3,000, which is 3% of my total budget amount, and that is less than 5 to 10% in the column D allowable range. So it's highlighted in column E, and you will just put a detailed justification for anywhere that it's highlighted. And so please make sure that your total at the bottom in column B, all the way at the bottom where it says total, please make sure that that total is equal to the total that you put here for your total budgeted amount. If you at any point in the program year have a contract amendment, we will ask that you fill out a new line item budget so that we know how you plan on budgeting your contract amended amount. Okay, so that is the line item budget, and now I will be going over the expense report. So the expense report has a few sheets. It has the summary page, and then it has 4 expense tabs. So you will see here that you can click over here for instructions on how to complete the PHLpreK expense report. That will be a PDF that has written instructions. And then here will be this video tutorial in case you want to go back and rewatch it. So just like the line item budget, there will be a drop down for site information. So you'll select your site name. You will also select the time frame of the report. So if you're submitting this for the mid-year, column C and D, which are the mid-year columns, those will be highlighted, and the year-end columns will be grayed out. And then if you're doing it for the year-end expense report, you will click year-end and the mid-year columns will be grayed out and the year-end columns will be highlighted. So for this example, let's just pretend we're filling this out for the mid-year. You will click the date of submission, and then your total budgeted amount will transfer over from your line item budget. So we put $100,000 as the total budgeted amount here, and so it pre-populates here. So you do not have to put anything in to change it. In column A, it's the same. It's the budget expenses. So you have the 4 categories. You have the program staff expenses, program other expenses, occupancy expenses, and other expenses, and you have the same line items that you had in your line item budget. In column B, you have your approved annual budget amount, and so that also automatically comes over, so you do not have to put anything in column B here. So you can see for teacher expenses, the $50,000 came over. And so all of this came over from the line item budget. So you do not need to put anything in these columns. They will automatically populate from what you put in your line item budget. So then you will go to the 4 expense tabs. And so these correlate to the 4 categories in column A. So you have one for program staff expenses, you have one for program other expenses, occupancy expenses, and other expenses. And you will have to use the arrows right here to see all of them. So this is where you will list all of your expenses. So you will click, let's say for program staff expenses, you will click and there will be a drop down. So in column A, you will pick which of the line items you would like to put in. So let's say we were doing teacher salary. So you'll put the name of the teacher, the position, and then the total amount. So let's say the teacher salary was $25,000. And so if you're doing the mid-year, you'll put all of your expenses in column D. If you are filling this out for the year-end expense report, you will put that information in column E, and then it will populate in column F, the total. You do have to pick a drop-down category first in column A. If you try to put an amount in here, you will get an error. So it says, please enter an amount here. Before entering an amount here, you must select a spending category. So you have to have a spending category in column A and fill out this information before you can complete column D. So then once you fill all of these out, you can go back here and you'll see that it will have automatically populated in column C. So it will populate your the amount you put. And so if you have multiple teachers, you can put teacher salary in one row, or you can list each individual teacher, and then that total will populate in column C for teacher salaries. So you will go through and you will enter each of your expenses in each of the 4 expense tabs. And then those totals will populate in column C. Column D, you will not be putting anything in column D. That will automatically populate based on what your approved budget amount is, and then based on what your actual is. So then E and F would be the year end. So if it was for a mid-year, you would not put anything in these. And then for column G, those are the justifications. So if your actual expenses vary by 10% and over or 10% and under from what you had originally budgeted, you will need to add in a detailed justification. So for here, like for example, let's say other programmatic support salaries. So we had budgeted $8,000, but let's say we didn't use any of that money when it was time for the mid-year expense report. We would just type in here a detailed justification. So we would say why. So let's say we hadn't hired that person yet. We were planning on hiring that person after the mid-year was due. So let's say we were planning on hiring that person in April, you would just type that, you would just write that. You would write a detailed justification. So column H and I are allocations. So they indicate how PHL pre-K expenses were allocated by choosing from the dropdown. So you will choose from the dropdown of where they allocated based on children, space, time, and other. And then in column I, you will put the percentage of the allocation. You can add a range if an allocation method varies for that line item. So for example, if a teacher works in a classroom that has 10 PHL pre-K children and 10 non-PHL pre-K children, if you allocated costs by children, PHL pre-K expenses would be half of the teacher's salary. So under allocation method, you would select children, and under allocation percentage, you would select 50%. So you would do H&I allocation method and allocation percentage, which can be 1% or it can be a range. And you will do that for each line item that you have an amount in. So that is how you complete the expense report. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at PHLpreK at phmc.org. Again, that's PHLpreK at phmc.org, and we will be happy to answer any questions or walk through the template with you. Thanks for watching the tutorial.